The year was 2305, and humanity had finally stepped into the galactic stage. For decades, Earth's scientists and explorers had searched tirelessly for signs of intelligent life beyond their own planet. Their efforts paid off when they discovered the Caliph Empire, a vast coalition of advanced alien species spread across multiple star systems. This discovery marked a turning point in human history. Diplomats were sent, treaties drafted, and alliances formed as humanity sought to prove itself worthy among these ancient civilizations. Among the many representatives of the Caliph Empire was Princess Liraine of the Velari, an elegant yet imposing figure whose presence commanded respect wherever she went. The Velari were known for their sharp intellect, disciplined society, and unmatched technological prowess. They were also notoriously difficult to negotiate with, valuing logic over emotion and tradition over innovation. To most humans, including those tasked with working alongside her, Liraine seemed almost untouchable, her expressions unreadable, her movements precise, and her words carefully measured. Marcus Hale, on the other hand, couldn't have been more different. A career diplomat from Earth, Marcus was warm, approachable, and quick-witted. He had a knack for diffusing tense situations with humor and often relied on his charm to win over even the toughest negotiators. Assigned to assist Princess Liraine during a cultural exchange summit aboard the neutral space station, Ecliptica, Marcus knew this assignment would be challenging. But he didn't expect it to feel so awkward. Their first meeting set the tone for what was to come. As Marcus extended his hand in greeting, Liraine simply stared at it before offering a formal bow, a gesture that left him flustered but determined not to show it. "Welcome, Your Highness," he said with a smile, trying to mask his discomfort. "I'm honored to work with you." Liraine tilted her head slightly, studying him with piercing silver eyes. Her voice was calm but carried an edge of skepticism. "Your customs are unfamiliar to me, Mr. Hale. I trust you will clarify them as needed." From there, things only grew stranger. During meals shared in the station's grand dining hall, Marcus attempted small talk, asking about Liraine's homeworld or sharing stories of Earth's diverse cultures. Each time, her responses were polite but distant, as if she found his attempts at connection baffling, or worse, irrelevant. Still, Marcus persisted, driven by a mix of professional duty and genuine curiosity. One evening, after hours of tedious negotiations over trade agreements, Marcus suggested they take a break. "We've been cooped up in conference rooms all day," he said cheerfully. "How about we grab some dinner? There's a great little cafe here that serves authentic Earth cuisine." To his surprise, Liraine agreed, though her expression remained inscrutable. Over plates of steaming pasta and fragrant spices, Marcus tried again to bridge the gap between them. "You know," he began, swirling his fork thoughtfully, "people back home are fascinated by your empire. Some even think aliens like you might look down on us because we're still figuring things out." Liraine paused mid-bite, her gaze locking onto his. "My people do not judge others based on their level of advancement," she replied evenly. "We value strength, discipline, and purpose. Those qualities can exist regardless of technology." Marcus nodded, impressed by her conviction. "Fair enough," he said with a grin. "But let me tell you something. We humans may not have your tech, but we're pretty good at adapting. Give us a problem, and we'll find a way to solve it." It was meant as a lighthearted comment, but Liraine's reaction caught him off guard. Instead of dismissing his words, she leaned forward slightly, her interest piqued. "Adaptability is indeed valuable," she admitted. "Perhaps there is more to your species than I initially assumed." Encouraged by this rare glimpse of openness, Marcus pressed further. "So, hypothetically speaking," he said, leaning back in his chair with a playful smirk, "if marrying into royalty could help secure peace between our peoples, I'd totally volunteer." Imagine the headlines. "Human diplomat marries alien princess." For a moment, Liraine said nothing, her face betraying no emotion. Then, slowly, her lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "That would certainly be Unprecedented, she murmured. Marcus chuckled, assuming she was humoring him. Yeah, well, don't hold your breath, Your Highness. I doubt anyone would take me seriously. But as they parted ways later that night, Lyrain lingered in the corridor, watching him leave. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could such a union truly strengthen ties between the Caliph Empire and Earth? And why did the thought of Marcus's proposal, meant as a joke, leave her feeling strangely unsettled? Little did either of them know, this seemingly harmless remark would spark a chain of events neither could have anticipated. For now, though, the seed had been planted, and the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see where it might grow. The days following their dinner conversation passed quickly, though Marcus and Lyrain's interactions remained a delicate dance of curiosity and caution. Each morning, they met in the conference rooms aboard the Ecliptica, poring over documents and debating terms for trade agreements that could reshape relations between Earth and the Caliph Empire. While Marcus brought energy and enthusiasm to the discussions, Lyrain countered with precision and logic, ensuring every detail aligned with her people's interests. Despite their professional focus, something had shifted between them. Marcus couldn't shake the memory of Lyrain's faint smile when he jokingly proposed marriage, a reaction so unexpected it lingered in his mind long after the meal ended. Was she amused, offended, or perhaps intrigued? He didn't know, but it made him more determined than ever to break through her carefully constructed walls. For her part, Lyrain found herself observing Marcus more closely. His humor often caught her off guard, as did his willingness to challenge conventions without fear of consequences. It was refreshing. Yet, she reminded herself repeatedly that such qualities were irrelevant. Diplomacy required discipline, not frivolity. Still, there were moments, like when he animatedly described Earth's festivals or recounted tales of human ingenuity, that she felt an unfamiliar flicker of admiration. Their partnership took a dramatic turn one evening during a diplomatic gala hosted aboard the station. Representatives from dozens of species mingled under shimmering lights, exchanging pleasantries while soft music played in the background. Marcus, dressed in formal attire borrowed from Earth's embassy staff, navigated the crowd with ease, introducing Lyrain to various dignitaries. She moved gracefully beside him, nodding politely as names blurred together in a haze of introductions. As they paused near a balcony overlooking the stars, Marcus leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You're doing great," he said encouragingly. "Half these people probably won't remember what we talked about tomorrow anyway." Lyrain raised an eyebrow. "And yet, appearances matter. My presence here is symbolic of my empire's commitment to cooperation." "Sure," Marcus replied with a shrug. "But symbolism only goes so far if no one enjoys themselves. Relax a little. You might actually have fun." Before she could respond, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. Shouts echoed through the room as several armed guards rushed toward a figure attempting to push past security barriers. The intruder wore a dark cloak, obscuring their identity, and carried what appeared to be a small metallic device emitting a low hum. Without hesitation, Marcus stepped in front of Lyrain, shielding her from view. "Stay behind me," he whispered urgently. The situation escalated rapidly. Guards tackled the intruder to the ground, confiscating the device just as its humming grew louder. A blinding flash filled the room, followed by silence. When the light faded, the would-be attacker lay unconscious, restrained by security personnel. Panic rippled through the crowd as attendees scrambled for safety. Marcus turned to Lyrain, his expression grim. "Are you okay?" She nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "I am unharmed, but this was clearly intended for me." Security officers arrived moments later, escorting both Marcus and Lyrain to a secure chamber for questioning. As investigators examined the confiscated device, preliminary reports confirmed it was a prototype weapon designed to incapacitate Valeri physiology specifically. Someone within the Caliph Empire, or perhaps even among humanity's rivals, wanted Lyrain silenced. Back in the safety of the chamber, tension crackled between them. Marcus paced the floor, running a hand through his hair. "This isn't good," he muttered. "Whoever planned this knew exactly where to strike." Lorraine sat rigidly on a chair, her composure masking the storm brewing inside her. "Such attempts are not uncommon," she admitted quietly. "My position makes me a target, but this is the first time someone has acted so boldly in public." Marcus stopped pacing and looked at her directly. "Then maybe it's time to send a message back. Show whoever's behind this that they can't scare you, or us, into backing down." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. For the first time, Lorraine allowed herself to consider the possibility that Marcus wasn't merely a charming diplomat playing a role. There was a fire in him, a determination to protect not just his own interests but hers as well. It unnerved her and intrigued her. Later that night, as they prepared to leave the station for separate quarters, Marcus hesitated before speaking. "Look, I know tonight was intense, and I don't expect you to trust me completely. But if there's anything I've learned working with you, it's that strength comes from standing together, not apart." Lorraine studied him for a long moment, her silver eyes searching his face. Finally, she spoke, her voice softer than usual. "Your proposal earlier, it was meant as jest, correct?" Caught off guard, Marcus blinked. "Well, yeah. At least I thought it was. But now," she pressed, her tone unreadable. He hesitated, then straightened his posture. "If marrying royalty could help keep you safe and strengthen our alliance, I'd mean every word of it. No joke." Her lips parted slightly, surprise flickering across her features. Before she could respond, a guard entered the room, signaling it was time for her departure. Without another word, Lorraine turned and walked away, leaving Marcus staring after her. That night, alone in her quarters, Lorraine replayed their conversation in her mind. Marcus's sincerity unsettled her, not because it was unwelcome, but because it forced her to confront questions she'd long avoided. Could a human truly understand the weight of her responsibilities? And if he did, would she be willing to let him share them? Meanwhile, Marcus stared out the window of his cabin, watching the distant stars. He hadn't expected his impulsive remark to carry such weight. Yet, as he reflected on the danger they'd faced together, he realized one thing for certain. Protecting Lorraine and earning her trust had become far more important than he'd ever imagined. The assassination attempt on Princess Lorraine sent shockwaves through the Caliph Empire. News of the incident spread rapidly, igniting debates among the empire's leaders and citizens alike. Some viewed it as evidence of growing unrest within their borders, while others saw it as a direct challenge to Valyrian authority. For Lorraine, however, the event served as a stark reminder of the immense pressure resting on her shoulders, and the limitations placed upon her by tradition. Back on her home planet, Valar Prime, Lorraine stood in the grand hall of the royal palace, surrounded by advisors and council members. They had summoned her for an emergency meeting to discuss the security breach aboard the Ecliptica. The room buzzed with tension as voices rose and fell, each speaker offering theories about who might have orchestrated the attack. Despite the chaos, Lorraine remained silent, her expression calm but distant. Finally, one of her senior advisors, Elder Tayrin, addressed her directly. "Your Highness," he began, his tone grave, "this incident underscores the dangers of engaging too closely with outsiders. Humanity is unpredictable, untested. Their presence in our affairs only invites risk." Lorraine's jaw tightened slightly at the accusation, though she kept her voice steady. "Humanity has shown no hostility toward us. If anything, they seek cooperation. We cannot dismiss them based on fear alone." Tayrin leaned forward, his piercing gaze locking onto hers. "Cooperation, or compromise. You must consider what this alliance truly costs us. Our traditions, our values, they are not negotiable." The weight of his words settled heavily over the chamber. Lorraine knew Tayrin spoke not just for himself, but for many within the Empire who viewed humanity's rise as a threat to Valyrian supremacy. Marriages among the royal line were sacred institutions designed to strengthen alliances or preserve genetic purity. Allowing a human, even someone like Marcus. To enter that equation would be seen as sacrilege. As the meeting drew to a close, Lorraine excused herself and retreated to her private quarters. There, amidst the opulent furnishings and glowing bioluminescent panels that adorned the walls, she allowed herself a rare moment of vulnerability. She sat by the window, gazing out at the lush forests and crystalline rivers of Valor Prime. Her mind drifted back to Marcus, the way he had shielded her during the attack, his unwavering determination to protect her, even when it wasn't his responsibility. But more than his actions, it was his words that lingered in her thoughts. Strength comes from standing together, not apart. Could there be truth in that? Could humanity offer something the Caliph Empire desperately needed? Fresh perspectives, adaptability, hope. Determined to find answers, Lyran began researching Earth's history and culture. She spent hours poring over documents, holographic recordings, and first-hand accounts provided by human diplomats. What she discovered fascinated her. Humans were resilient, resourceful, and endlessly creative. They thrived in adversity, finding ways to overcome challenges that would crush lesser species. More importantly, they valued connection, forming bonds across differences to build communities and achieve shared goals. Yet, despite these revelations, doubt gnawed at her. How could she reconcile her admiration for humanity with the expectations placed upon her as a princess? To marry a human would mean defying centuries of tradition, risking alienation from her own people. And yet, to reject Marcus's proposal outright felt equally wrong. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, Marcus received an official summons to return to Valor Prime. At first glance, the message seemed routine, a request to finalize pending agreements, but something about its phrasing gave him pause. He couldn't shake the feeling that this trip would be anything but ordinary. Upon arriving at the capital city, Marcus was struck by its beauty. Towering spires made of iridescent materials stretched toward the sky, reflecting sunlight in dazzling hues. Streets teemed with life, bustling with Valori citizens going about their daily routines. Yet beneath the surface vibrancy, Marcus sensed an undercurrent of unease. Whispers followed him wherever he went, and few met his gaze openly. When he finally met with Lorraine in the palace gardens, the atmosphere between them was charged with unspoken questions. She greeted him formally, her demeanor polite but guarded. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Hale," she said, gesturing for him to walk alongside her. "There are matters we must discuss." Marcus nodded, falling into step beside her. "Of course, Your Highness. Whatever you need." They strolled along winding paths, lined with vibrant flora, their footsteps muffled by soft moss. After a long silence, Lorraine spoke. "Your proposal, it has caused quite a stir among my people. Many see it as a threat to our traditions. Others believe it could weaken our position within the Empire." Marcus frowned, concern etched across his face. "I never meant to create trouble. It was just a thought, a way to show how serious I am about building trust between our worlds." Lyran stopped walking and turned to face him. "And what if I told you that I am considering it? Not because I wish to defy my people, but because I believe your offer may hold merit." Her words took him aback. "You're serious?" She nodded slowly. "I have studied your species, Mr. Hale. I see potential in humanity, in you. But know this, pursuing such a union will not be easy. My advisors oppose it. My family may disown me. And there will be consequences neither of us can foresee." Marcus stared at her, his heart pounding. This wasn't just a diplomatic negotiation anymore. It was a leap into the unknown. Taking a deep breath, he met her gaze squarely. "If you're willing to take that risk, then so am I. Together, we'll figure it out." For the first time, Lorraine allowed herself a genuine smile, one that reached her eyes and softened her features. "Then let us proceed cautiously, one step at a time." As they resumed their walk, Marcus felt a surge of determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them, for her, for Earth, and for the future they might build together. The announcement that Marcus Hale, a human diplomat, was being considered as a potential suitor for Princess Lorraine sent shockwaves through Valar Prime. News spread like wildfire, igniting fierce debates in the royal court and among the general populace. For many Valari, the idea of their revered princess marrying an outsider, let alone a human, was unthinkable. To them, humanity represented chaos, unpredictability, and immaturity compared to the disciplined perfection of the Valari. Yet others whispered cautiously about the possibilities such a union might bring. Fresh ideas, new alliances, and perhaps even a brighter future. Despite the backlash, Lorraine stood firm in her decision to explore the proposal further. She knew Marcus wasn't just any human. He had proven himself courageous, adaptable, and deeply committed to fostering peace between their peoples. Still, tradition demanded that any suitor undergo rigorous trials to prove their worthiness. These tests were designed not only to assess physical and intellectual capabilities, but also to determine whether the candidate could uphold the values and responsibilities expected of a member of the royal family. Marcus, unaware of the full extent of what awaited him, arrived at the trial grounds with a mix of determination and trepidation. The arena was vast, surrounded by towering crystalline structures that shimmered under the planet's twin suns. Crowds gathered on elevated platforms, watching silently as he approached the central dais where Lorraine stood alongside Elder Terran and other members of the council. "Mr. Hale," Terran began, his voice echoing across the space, "you have made bold claims regarding your suitability to join our royal line. Today, you will demonstrate whether those claims hold merit. Failure will result in your immediate dismissal." Marcus swallowed hard but nodded. "Understood. I'm ready." The first trial tested physical endurance. Marcus was tasked with navigating a labyrinth filled with obstacles designed to simulate the harsh environments of Valar Prime's untamed wilderness. Sharp thorn bushes tore at his clothes, icy winds threatened to freeze him in place, and shifting sands made every step precarious. Though physically outmatched by the Valari, who thrived in these conditions, Marcus relied on quick thinking and sheer willpower to push forward. When exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, he focused on one thought: proving himself worthy of Lorraine and her people. Next came the intellectual challenge. Marcus faced off against a panel of Valari scholars in a series of debates covering topics ranging from astrophysics to philosophy. At times, he struggled to keep up with their lightning-fast reasoning and encyclopedic knowledge. But instead of trying to match them point for point, Marcus leaned into his strengths: creativity and adaptability. He drew parallels between Valari concepts and human innovations, offering unique perspectives that surprised even the most skeptical judges. By the end of the session, whispers rippled through the crowd, some impressed, others irritated by his unconventional approach. The final trial was the most daunting. Simulated combat against elite Valari warriors. Armed with a training staff, Marcus squared off against opponents who moved with speed and precision far beyond anything he'd encountered before. Blow after blow landed, leaving him bruised and battered. Yet each time he fell, he got back up, refusing to surrender. His persistence earned grudging respect from the warriors, though they showed no mercy. As the trials concluded, Marcus collapsed onto the ground, breathless and aching. Despite his efforts, he knew he hadn't excelled in any single category. Compared to the Valari, he was undeniably inferior in strength, intellect, and skill. But something else had emerged during the tests: a quiet determination, a refusal to give up no matter the odds. It was this quality that caught Lorraine's attention. That evening, she visited Marcus in the infirmary, where he lay recovering from his injuries. "You didn't win," she said simply, pulling up a chair beside his bed. "But you didn't lose either." He managed a weak smile. "Guess I'll take that as a compliment." Lorraine studied him closely, her expression thoughtful. "My people value perfection. They believe strength lies in achieving mastery over oneself and one's surroundings. But watching you today, I saw something different. You adapted, you endured, Even when everything seemed impossible, you kept going. Marcus chuckled softly. Yeah, well, humans are stubborn like that. We don't always know how to quit. Her lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. Perhaps that is why we need you. Word of Marcus's performance reached the council, sparking heated discussions. Some argued that his lack of mastery disqualified him entirely, while others pointed out that his resilience and ingenuity offered qualities the Valeri often lacked. Elder Terran, however, remained firmly opposed. This human is unworthy, he declared during a private meeting with Lorraine. He cannot possibly understand the weight of the crown or the sacrifices required. Lyran met his gaze steadily, and yet he has shown more courage than many who claim superiority. Sometimes, worthiness is not measured by power alone, but by heart. Returning to the council chamber, they faced a storm of voices clamoring for answers. Elder Terran stood at the forefront, his tone sharp and accusatory. Your Highness, the people demand clarity. If this union is genuine, let it be proven, not through words, but through actions. Lyran straightened her posture, her regal bearing returning as she addressed the room. Very well. Let it be known that my decision to consider Marcus Hale as a suitor stems not from manipulation, but from mutual respect and shared goals. Should anyone doubt this, I will personally vouch for his integrity. Marcus stepped forward, meeting the council's skeptical gazes head-on. I understand the concerns many of you have. But I ask you this, judge me not by what you fear, but by what I can offer. Together, Lorraine and I can bridge gaps between our peoples and create a future stronger than either of us could achieve alone. Though some remained unconvinced, others exchanged hesitant glances, moved by the conviction in his voice. Lyran watched silently, pride swelling in her chest. In that moment, she realized something crucial. Marcus wasn't just fighting for himself or for Earth. He was fighting for her, for the life they might build together. Later that night, as the palace quieted, Lorraine invited Marcus to her private chambers, a rare honor reserved only for those closest to the royal family. Sitting across from him, she revealed another secret, a holographic map of the galaxy, highlighting regions plagued by conflict and instability. This is why I believe in our potential, she explained. If we unite, we can address these challenges, not as separate entities, but as partners. Marcus studied the map, his resolve hardening. Then let's show them what we're capable of, together. As dawn broke over Valar Prime, both Marcus and Lorraine knew the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but armed with newfound trust and purpose, they prepared to face whatever came next, together. The scandal surrounding Marcus Hale and Princess Lorraine reached a fever pitch across the Caliph Empire. Leaked communications, allegedly from within the royal court, painted Marcus as an opportunist who had manipulated Lorraine into considering marriage purely for Earth's benefit. The accusation spread like wildfire, fueling outrage among those already opposed to the union. Protesters gathered outside the palace gates, holding banners that read "Tradition over treachery" and chanting slogans demanding justice for their princess. Inside the palace, tension simmered. Elder Terran seized the moment to rally his allies, calling for an emergency council meeting to formally reject Marcus's proposal. This human has brought shame upon our empire, he declared, slamming his fist on the table. If we allow this farce to continue, we risk losing not only our credibility, but also the loyalty of our people. Lyran listened silently as voices rose around her, each speaker more impassioned than the last. She knew she couldn't remain passive any longer. Rising to her feet, she addressed the room with a calm yet firm tone. Enough, she said, cutting through the chaos. I will not stand idly by while falsehoods tarnish my honor or Marcus's integrity. Her words silenced the chamber. All eyes turned to her as she stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Yes, I am considering the union with Marcus Hale. But let me make one thing clear. This decision is mine alone. It was not coerced, nor was it born out of manipulation. If anyone here doubts my judgment, then question me, not him. Elder Terran narrowed his eyes, clearly displeased. Your Highness, your feelings may cloud your perspective. This alliance threatens everything we hold sacred. It honors what truly matters, Lorraine countered, her voice unwavering. Strength does not lie solely in tradition or power, it lies in unity. Humanity offers values we have long neglected. Adaptability, resilience, and hope. These are qualities worth embracing, not rejecting. Marcus stood beside her now, his expression resolute. Though he understood the gravity of the situation, he refused to cower in the face of hostility. Addressing the council, he spoke with quiet confidence. I won't deny that my initial proposal came as a joke, a light-hearted remark meant to ease tensions, but over time, it became something more. Not because I sought personal gain, but because I saw potential. Potential to build bridges where walls once stood, to create understanding where there was division. He paused, scanning the room. You don't have to trust me fully, but give us a chance to prove ourselves. Let actions speak louder than rumors. His words struck a chord with some members of the council, particularly younger representatives who had grown weary of rigid traditions stifling progress. One such counselor, a Vaylari named Siren, rose to support them. Perhaps change is necessary, she said cautiously. Our empire thrives when we evolve, not when we cling to the past at all costs. Let us consider this proposal not as a threat, but as an opportunity. The debate raged on late into the night, with arguments swinging back and forth. Ultimately, the council agreed to postpone their final decision, allowing Marcus and Lorraine time to address public concerns directly. They would hold a formal address broadcasted live across the empire, an unprecedented move designed to demonstrate transparency and resolve. Preparations for the address began immediately. Lorraine worked closely with Marcus, crafting a message that balanced respect for tradition with a vision for the future. She shared stories of her own struggles with duty versus desire, emphasizing how Marcus's courage and sincerity had inspired her to seek a new path. Meanwhile, Marcus focused on highlighting humanity's achievements and aspirations, portraying Earth not as a lesser partner, but as an equal eager to contribute. On the day of the address, the atmosphere in the Grand Hall was electric. Thousands gathered in person, while millions more tuned in remotely. As Lorraine took the stage, flanked by Marcus, the entire empire seemed to hold its breath. Her silver eyes scanned the crowd before she began speaking. My fellow citizens, she said, her voice steady and clear, recent events have tested our unity. Some see this proposed alliance as a betrayal of who we are. Others view it as a step toward progress. But let me assure you, my commitment to our people remains unshaken. What I propose is not abandonment of our heritage, but expansion of it. By joining forces with humanity, we open doors to possibilities beyond imagination. She gestured for Marcus to step forward. He nodded briefly before addressing the audience. To the people of the Caliph Empire, I say this. I may be unfamiliar to you. My ways may differ from yours. But my intentions are sincere. Together, we can forge a partnership based not on fear or obligation, but on mutual respect and shared goals. Their words resonated deeply, sparking murmurs of approval even among skeptics. When they concluded, applause erupted, a sound neither had expected, but both desperately needed. In private afterward, Lorraine allowed herself a rare moment of relief. Turning to Marcus, she smiled faintly. We've taken the first step. Now comes the hard part. He grinned, clasping her hand in his. Hard or not, we'll take it together. As the galaxy watched, united in curiosity and cautious optimism, Marcus and Lorraine prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For the first time, they felt truly unstoppable, not because they were perfect, but because they were willing to fight for a better tomorrow. Months passed after Marcus and Lorraine's historic address, during which the Caliph Empire and humanity held its collective breath. The backlash had not disappeared entirely. Some factions continued to oppose the Union, spreading dissent through whispers and propaganda. Yet, for every voice of resistance, there were others who embraced the idea of change. Younger generations, inspired by the courage displayed by their princess and the human diplomat, began advocating for a future where tradition coexisted with innovation. The preparations for the wedding ceremony became a monumental undertaking, blending customs from both Earth and Vela Prime. It was decided that the event would take place on neutral ground aboard the Ecliptica, symbolizing unity between two worlds. Decorations combined Velari elegance, glowing crystalline structures and flowing fabrics, with Earth's warmth, represented by vibrant flowers, and soft music played on instruments crafted by human hands. Every detail reflected compromise and collaboration, a testament to the journey Marcus and Lorraine had undertaken together. On the day of the ceremony, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to witness history in the making. Dignitaries from Earth stood alongside Velari nobles, their differences momentarily set aside as they marveled at the sight before them. The grand hall shimmered under cascading lights, its walls adorned with symbols of both cultures. At the center of it all stood Marcus and Lorraine, side by side, ready to embark on this new chapter. As the officiant, a respected elder from the Caliph Council, began the proceedings, he addressed the crowd with solemnity. Today marks not only the joining of two individuals, but also the bridging of two civilizations. Let us honor their commitment not with fear of the unknown, but with hope for what may come. Marcus glanced at Lorraine, his heart swelling with pride as she recited her vows in flawless Velari, her voice steady and strong. When it came time for him to speak, he chose simple yet heartfelt words. I promise to stand by you, not just as your partner, but as your ally. Together, we'll face whatever challenges arise, always striving to make our worlds better. When the ceremony concluded, applause erupted throughout the hall, echoing like waves crashing against the shore. For the first time, many attendees allowed themselves to believe that this union could truly bring about lasting peace and prosperity. That evening, as fireworks lit up the starry expanse outside the station, Marcus and Lorraine found a quiet moment alone on a balcony overlooking the galaxy. Lorraine leaned against the railing, gazing out at the infinite sea of stars. "Do you think we've done enough?" she asked softly, her tone tinged with uncertainty. Marcus joined her, resting his hands on the cool metal surface. "Enough isn't the point," he replied. "This is just the beginning. There will be challenges ahead. People will doubt us, obstacles we can't foresee. But as long as we keep moving forward, we'll show them what's possible." She turned to look at him, her silver eyes reflecting the light of distant suns. "You sound so sure." He chuckled, scratching the back of his neck. "Let's just say I've learned a thing or two from you. Adaptability, right?" A rare laugh escaped her lips, and for a moment, the weight of responsibility seemed to lift. "Perhaps you're finally starting to understand us." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Silren, the counselor who had supported them during the crisis. She approached with a warm smile, holding out a small object wrapped in silk. "A gift for the newlyweds," she said, placing it gently in Lorraine's hands. "It's a fragment of the crystalline device used in your trials, a reminder of the strength required to overcome adversity." Lorraine unwrapped the object carefully, revealing a shard that pulsed faintly with light. "It's beautiful," she murmured, her fingers tracing its smooth surface. "And fitting." Siren nodded. "May it guide you as you forge a path forward. The Empire watches with hope." After she departed, Marcus picked up the shard, examining it thoughtfully. "You know," he said, "this little piece of crystal might be brighter than it looks. Maybe it's a beacon for everyone else to follow." Lorraine smiled, tucking the shard safely into her robes. "Then let us ensure it shines brightly." In the weeks and months that followed, Marcus and Lorraine worked tirelessly to solidify their alliance. Trade agreements flourished, cultural exchanges deepened understanding, and joint missions tackled issues once deemed impossible to resolve. Though tensions lingered among certain groups, the tide of public opinion shifted toward acceptance, fueled by stories of cooperation and shared success. Back on Valor Prime, Lorraine often found herself reflecting on how far they'd come. From an accidental jest to a life-changing decision, their journey had transformed not only their lives, but also the trajectory of two species. Marcus, too, felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing he had played a role in shaping a brighter future. One night, as they strolled through the palace gardens under the twin moons, Marcus couldn't resist teasing her. "So, ruling a planet wasn't exactly part of my career plan. Think I'll get the hang of it." Lyran raised an eyebrow, though amusement danced in her eyes. "You'll manage. After all, you've already proven yourself capable of handling far greater challenges." They laughed together, their bond stronger than ever. As they gazed at the stars, united in purpose, they knew their story would inspire countless others to reach across divides and seek common ground. For in the vastness of the universe, even the smallest acts of courage could spark a new dawn.